It's just past 7:30 in the evening across India. I am Tanvi Taneja. Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Global. We'll bring you the day's big stories from across India and the world. Joining me shortly will be my colleague Benji Haya. He joins us from Washington, D.C. Up first, let's take a look at the headlines. Jailed Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny confirmed his arrival at what he described as a snow-swept prison above the Arctic Circle. US expresses deep concern about his well-being. Russian defense minister says forces have stopped Ukraine's counteroffensive and are now pushing forward on all fronts. Kiev claims it has destroyed important Russian warship in Crimea. Explosions seen over the Israel-Lebanon border on day 81 of the conflict as fighting against Hamas rages on. And India vows strong response against those who perpetrated the MV Chem Pluto attack as India's Navy deploys warships to Arabian Sea after the tanker attack. Jailed Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny on Tuesday confirmed his arrival at what he described as a snow-swept prison above the Arctic Circle and said he was in excellent spirits despite a tiring 20-day journey to get there. Navalny posted an update on X after disappearing for more than 2 weeks. He also said that he had seen his lawyer. His allies said on Monday he had been transferred to a penal colony north of the Arctic Circle. Navalny, President Vladimir Putin's fiercest domestic critic, is already serving sentences totaling 11.5 years on fraud and other charges that he says are bogus. Now, reacting to the whereabouts of the jailed Russian politician, the United States welcomed the news of Navalny's location but said that they remained deeply concerned about his well-being. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov is set to hold talks with his Indian counterpart Subramaniam Jaishankar in Moscow on Wednesday. The ministers plan to discuss bilateral ties as well as the conflicts in Ukraine and the Israel-Hamas conflict, along with issues related to groups such as BRICS, of which both the countries are a part of. Earlier, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar held a meeting with leading representatives of the Russian strategic community in Moscow on Monday. He spoke about the importance of rebalancing and the emergence of multipolarity, and also discussed connectivity, multilateralism, big power competition, and regional conflicts, keeping India-Russia ties on a positive trajectory. Dr. Jaishankar also highlighted the importance of geopolitics and strategic convergence. Russia today said that its forces have stopped Ukraine's counteroffensive and are now pushing forward on all fronts. My colleague Benji Haya is in Washington, D.C. He gives us more on this and other stories making headlines around the world. Benji, over to you now.
Yes, Tanvi, we start stateside with that ongoing Russia-Ukraine crisis and a Ukrainian attack on the Crimean port of Feodosia, which has damaged a large Russian landing ship, killing 1 person and injuring 2 others. Moscow confirmed the number of casualties and damage on Tuesday after Kiev said it had destroyed an important Russian warship. Reports suggest Ukraine used guided missiles launched by aircraft to attack Feodosia.
The operation was planned by the armed forces and other security forces. Footage that is on air now is impressive indeed. A warship was destroyed, most likely a warship with a set of ammunition, powerful one. If someone has information about the type of ammunition, it will be announced later.
Russia's defense minister Sergei Shoigu says Russian forces have stopped Ukraine's counteroffensive and are now pushing forward on all fronts. DD India's Dasha Shiroshika reports from Moscow.
Moscow has admitted that a Ukrainian strike against the Crimean port city of Feodosia has damaged a large landing warship called Novocherkassk. It is not immediately clear how badly the ship was damaged, but it had the capacity to carry tanks and armored vehicles. The Russian Ministry of Defense says Ukraine used guided missiles launched by aircraft. Those Su-24s have been destroyed by the Russian air defense systems. Fire broke out in the port area of Feodosia as a result of this attack. One person was killed and at least 4 have been injured. Hours before the overnight strike, Russian Minister of Defense Sergei Shoigu reported to President Vladimir Putin that Russia gained full control over the town of Mariinka in the Donetsk People's Republic.
The Russian army is constantly taking more favorable positions and expanding controlled territories in all directions. We are consistently moving towards achieving the stated goals of the special military operation.
Putin said that was an important development that gives Russian military more maneuver for further actions and decreases Ukraine's defense capabilities. Dasha Chernysova reporting in Moscow for DD India.
More on Ukraine. It's received a vital $1.34 billion in funds from the World Bank, with US and EU funding delayed. Those funds, according to the Ukraine's Ministry of Finance, are expected to be used to partially compensate for non-security and defense-related expenditures of the Ukrainian state budget. As the Ukraine-Russia conflict continues, the aid will help Kyiv in its fight against Moscow. Ukraine's proposing terminating a free trade agreement with Belarus. That move to cancel the agreement is being taken after Belarus allegedly assisted Russia with its invasion of Ukraine. After the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, Belarus actually remained one of Ukraine's main trading partners, supplying significant amounts of fuel and fertilizers to its neighbor. China's criticized American sanctions on Russia's liquefied natural gas project. China's foreign ministry says its involvement in Russia's Arctic LNG-2 should not be the target of third-party intervention or restriction. Those comments were made in response to the US imposing sanctions on the project back in November as part of a package of sweeping new measures against Moscow over the war in Ukraine.
China and Russia carry out normal economic and trade cooperation on the basis of mutual respect, equality and mutual benefit. It should not be interfered with or restricted by any third party. Facts have proven that sanctions and pressure cannot solve the problem. On the contrary, they will cause spillover effects. China has always opposed unilateral sanctions and long-arm jurisdiction without the basis of international law and the authorization of the United Nations Security Council. China and Russia will continue to carry out normal economic and trade cooperation in the spirit of mutual respect, equality and mutual benefit.
Now, to another conflict dominating headlines in the world. Loud explosions and smoke seen and heard across the Israel-Lebanon border. Hezbollah, based in Lebanon, has been trading fire with Israel at that border since Hamas attacked southern Israel from Gaza on October 7th, igniting a conflict that's drawn in the heavily armed group and other Iran-aligned factions across the Middle East. Meanwhile, Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant hinted on Tuesday that his country's retaliated in Iraq, Yemen and Iran for attacks as the conflict against Hamas in Gaza widens to other areas of the region. The Israel Defense Forces retaliated against Lebanon and Syria and carried out raids in the occupied West Bank. The Israel-Hamas conflict refuses to die down anytime soon. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel wants to free remaining hostages held by Hamas in the Palestinian territory by continuing to apply military pressure.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed to continue fighting against terror group Hamas until the end. Accompanied by Deputy Chief of Staff Major General Amir Baram, Netanyahu spoke with soldiers and commanders in northern Gaza on Monday, during which he said the war was far from over and dismissed what he cast as media speculation his government might call a halt to the fighting.
Whoever talks about stopping, there is no such thing. We are not stopping. The war will continue until the end. October 7th is not over. It is not over. We have to make sure that it never happens again. This requires what each and every one of you is asking for, just to continue until the end. Until the end. And I'm just proud of your determination. It's not easy. On the other hand, it is easy. Simply to continue to the end. I salute you like this.
Israel's Minister of Defense Yoav Gallant held a situation assessment in the IDF's Northern Command. Gallant expressed his appreciation to the head of the Northern Command and senior officers for their actions. He also emphasized that these will continue until the residents of northern Israel return to their homes. However, Israel, he said, will do what is necessary so that thousands of Israelis evacuated from near the border with Lebanon will be able to return home. Meanwhile, the families of Hamas hostages gathered in Tel Aviv in the hope of pleading authorities for help for their loved ones.
We want to hear what's the plan. What's the plan now? When Hamas says no to the deal, we want to know what's next.
Because they don't have any time over there in the tunnels and their life are in danger. And we hope that they will make a deal as soon as possible because we need to save them.
Meanwhile, 218 trucks loaded with humanitarian aid for the people of Gaza were inspected and transferred to the Gaza Strip on Monday. 76 of the trucks were inspected and transferred to Gaza via the recently opened Kerem Shalom crossing, which is located in the corner where the Egyptian, Israeli and Gazan borders meet. Bureau Report, DD India.
More on those Middle Eastern retaliatory strikes by the West. The US military carrying out strikes in Iraq on Monday after an attack earlier in the day by Iran-aligned militants that injured 3 American personnel, including one who's in critical condition. US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said in a statement that he prays for the brave Americans that were injured. The back-and-forth clash that was just the latest demonstration of how the Israel-Hamas conflict is rippling across the region, creating turmoil that's turned US troops at bases in Iraq and Syria into targets. And in Serbia, thousands continue to protest over an election earlier this month that international monitors say were unfair. 38 people have been held by Serbian police. More are likely to be arrested as law and order worsens. DD India's Mihir Makuri sent us this report with more details.
Serbia is witnessing a major political uproar against reported widespread irregularities during a recent general ballot. Monday also saw several thousand people gather in front of the Central Election Commission building in Belgrade. Monday witnessed Serbian students banging pots and chanting quote-unquote disclosed ballot lists outside Serbian ministries, demanding an inspection of voters' list of parliamentary and local elections held a week ago that international observers said were unfair. As per Serbian police, the opposition's Sunday protest over election results resulted in 38 individuals being detained. Now, in order to preserve stability and tranquility, the police anticipate further arrests. The protesters assume that those being held by the police were being held at the main police station, so they marched there on Monday.
We are here tonight and we are peaceful, and we will stay peaceful, but that is not going to last forever. There is a wall behind us we were pushed against, while police cordons are in front of us. I'm asking Serbian President Alexander Vučić, who is paying for these police batons, who is paying for those pepper sprays and the tear gas, who is paying for that?
Since the December 17 elections, when Vučić's party declared victory in both the parliamentary and Belgrade municipal ballot elections, opposition group Serbia Against Violence has been staging rallies, claiming election fraud, especially in the capital city of Belgrade. Meanwhile, Serbia's ally Russia said foreign-backed forces were trying to foment trouble.
Besides, there are obvious processes and attempts of third-party forces, including foreign-backed forces, to provoke unrest in Belgrade. That is what we see. We have no doubt authorities of Republic will provide legitimacy in the country.
The protests on Sunday were also characterized by President Vučić as an effort to topple the administration with outside assistance. As a candidate for the European Union, Serbia has resisted calls from the West to impose sanctions on Russia because Moscow has long been one of the Serbia's closest allies. Mihir Makri, DD India.
We'll keep a close eye on events in Serbia. For now, though, that's it from me here in Washington. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you so much, Benji, for joining us. Benji Haya there, joining us from our Washington bureau. You're watching DD India Global, still to come on the show. Russian President Vladimir Putin welcomes his counterparts from Commonwealth of Independent States, CIS countries, for an informal summit in St. Petersburg. In New Delhi, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi lauds Sikh Guru Gobind Singh's sons and their supreme sacrifice on Veer Bal Divas. And India's Prime Minister becomes the first world leader to reach 20 million subscribers on YouTube.
India's huge leaps towards becoming self-reliant in defense sector. Policy changes enabling increased involvement of private sector. From humanitarian assistance to rescue operations. Increased synergy among armed forces through joint military exercises. Watch Echoes 2023, India's defenders at these times only on DD India.
You're watching DD India Global. I am Tanvi Taneja. The Indian Navy today commissioned its latest warship, the INS Imphal, at Naval Dockyard in Mumbai. It is a stealth-guided missile destroyer. The event marked the formal induction into the Navy of the third of the 4 Visakhapatnam-class destroyers indigenously designed by the Indian Navy's in-house organization. A report.
Increasing the Indian Navy's prowess manifold, the commissioning of INS Imphal will strengthen the Indian Navy further, and it could be the best example of Atmanirbharta and could be termed as the best gift for the new year.
The Indian Navy has commissioned its latest stealth-guided missile destroyer INS Imphal at Naval Dockyard in Mumbai. The event was attended by India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh. The event marks the formal induction into the Navy of the third of 4 Visakhapatnam-class destroyers, indigenously designed by the Indian Navy's in-house organization, Warship Design Bureau, and constructed by Mazagon Dock Limited, Mumbai. Indian Defence Minister said that induction of INS Imphal into Indian Navy shows India's self-reliance in defence sector.
INS Imphal का भारतीय नौसेना में शामिल होना रक्षा क्षेत्र में भारत की आत्मनिर्भरता का यह जीता जागता प्रमाण है। यह राष्ट्रीय सुरक्षा के प्रति एमडीएल एवं नेवी की कमिटमेंट और इसके निर्माण में शामिल सभी स्टेक होल्डर्स की कठिन मेहनत, लगन और समर्पण को भी दर्शाता है। आईएनएस इम्फाल की कमीशनिंग भारत की नौसैनिक शक्ति को और मजबूती प्रदान करेगा, ऐसा मेरा पक्का विश्वास है।
The Indian Defence Minister also warned those behind the recent drone attacks on MV Chem Pluto in Arabian Sea and drone attack on vessel MV Sai Baba in Red Sea.
भारत की बढ़ती आर्थिक और सामरिक ताकत ने कुछ ताकतों को ईर्ष्या और द्वेष से भर दिया है। अरब सागर में हाल में हुए एमवी चैम प्लूटो पर ड्रोन हमले और कुछ पहले लाल सागर में एमवी साईं बाबा पर हुए हमले को भारत सरकार ने बहुत ही गंभीरतापूर्वक लिया है। भारतीय नौसेना ने समुद्र की निगरानी बढ़ा दी है। जिन्होंने भी इस हमले को अंजाम दिया है उन्हें हम सागर तल से भी ढूंढ निकालेंगे और उनके खिलाफ कठोर कार्रवाई की जाएगी। मैं यह आपको आश्वस्त करना चाहता हूं।
While addressing the gathering, Chief of the Naval Staff of the Indian Navy, Admiral Radhakrishnan Harikumar, asserted that Navy is ready to take on sea pirates in Arabian Sea.
INS Imphal will not only tackle physical threats that emanate at or from the seas, but more importantly, through a demonstrated strength of an integrated Bharat, she will deter nefarious designs trying to subvert our national unity. We have 4 destroyers of 15 Alpha and Bravo class deployed to counter piracy and drone attacks on merchant shipping. Also, we have air surveillance by Sea Guardians, P-8Is, Dorniers, helicopters, and Indian Coast Guard units, all deployed jointly to counter these threats.
Made in India destroyer has a 75% high indigenous content, including a medium-range surface-to-surface missile, the BrahMos missile, torpedo tube launchers, and a 76 mm super rapid gun mount. The weapon systems are developed by Indian firms.
INS Imphal will have the distinction of being the largest warship to be named after the city in northeast. It is also demonstrating the Indian Navy's thrust on combat effectiveness and the confidence in indigenous cutting-edge weapons and platform. With camera person Shishir Dikshit, this is Shama Mishra for DD India, Mumbai.
Also, the Indian Navy announced the deployment of guided missile destroyers to maintain a deterrent presence in view of the recent attacks in the Arabian Sea. Taking into consideration a spate of attacks on commercial vessels, the Indian Navy deployed warships INS Mormugao, INS Kochi and INS Kolkata to maintain a deterrent presence in the region. And now back to New Delhi, where India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi participated in the Veer Bal Divas program at Bharat Mandapam. On the occasion, Prime Minister Modi flagged off a march past by the youth. The Veer Bal Divas marks the martyrdom of Shri Guru Gobind Singh's sons, Sahibzadas, Baba Zorawar Singh and Baba Fateh Singh. Addressing the event, marking the Veer Bal Divas, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that youth power can take the country to new heights, which is beyond imagination. He added that Veer Bal Divas is a symbol of going to any extent for the protection of Indian values or Bhartiyata.
वीर बाल दिवस भारतीयता की रक्षा के लिए कुछ भी कर गुजरने के संकल्प का प्रतीक है। ये दिन हमें याद दिलाता है कि शौर्य की पराकाष्ठा के समय कम आयु मायने नहीं रखती। ये उस महान विरासत का पर्व है जहां गुरु कहते थे, सूरा सो पहचानिए, सूरा सो पहचानिए, जो लड़ई दिन के हेत, पुरजा कट मरे, कबहू ना छाड़े खेत.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's YouTube channel achieved a significant milestone today. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's YouTube channel has reached 20 million subscribers, making it the most subscribed channel among top global leaders. Prime Minister Modi is the only world leader to have achieved this distinction and leads other global and Indian contemporaries by a huge margin. With a staggering 4.5 billion video views, the Narendra Modi YouTube channel leads the pack in terms of subscribers, video views and quality of videos being posted by political leaders on YouTube. The Indian government is running a nationwide outreach initiative called the Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra to raise awareness and achieve saturation of various welfare programs. The Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra reached the Para area of Lucknow in the Indian state of Uttar Pradesh. A large crowd gathered to welcome this van. On the occasion, people were given information of government schemes. The beneficiaries who took advantage of various schemes also shared their stories under Meri Kahani Meri Zubani campaign. And next we take a look at what else is happening around the world. Thailand has been hit by severe floods after days of incessant rainfall. Aerial footage showed a large portion of Thailand's Narathiwal province with houses and roads inundated with water. The widespread flooding has affected thousands of households and residents have been advised to move to higher grounds. The Thai government has ordered the country's army and health ministry to provide assistance. China, which is grappling with one of its coldest months this December, will likely have to brace for another round of scorching heat and an increase in extreme weather next year due to the El Niño weather phenomena, as per China's National Climate Center chief expert. The expert said 2024 may be hotter, and it could also be a year when extreme weather events may become more frequent and powerful. An informal meeting of the Commonwealth of Independent States presidents took place on Tuesday in Russia's St. Petersburg. Russian President Vladimir Putin invited his counterparts to St. Petersburg to communicate and, in an informal setting, discuss topical issues and exchange views. At least 200 runners in Berlin tried to lose the holiday calories after the holiday celebrations at the traditional roast goose digestion run on Tuesday. The runners usually take on a 5-kilometer loop before they gather for mulled wine and pastries. Being the 23rd edition of the run, the organizers have reached the age of senior citizens and are starting to wonder about the tradition's future. Roast goose is a traditional Christmas food in Germany, served with red cabbage, kale and potato dumplings. That's it in this edition of DD India Global. But do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram at DD India Live. I am Tanvi Taneja from my entire team in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.